It's somebody looking at the PGA and thinking, you're very vulnerable. You're just an organizing group. This was going to happen, wasn't it?
In this episode, Big Boy Pants Golf declares Live Golf victorious. Ed Blair puts in the comments section, love your vids. You need to upgrade the couch. Looks like grandma's living room, cheap Victorian style love seat, LOL. You also know your furniture. How many other YouTube channels out there can you put something in the comments section and... How you feel me now, Ed Blair? They didn't have these bad boys in the Victorian period. In fact, you'd have to cover up the legs because the legs of chairs during the Victorian era were the original thirst traps.
And so the league is sort of forming in Norman's image in a lot of ways. I mean, he's always stirred the pot.
Alan Shipnuck calling anyone a pot stirrer is the pot calling the kettle black.
You know, Phil loves to stir the pot, and he likes to be the smartest guy in the room. So
this is from his interview with Colin Cowherd just a few days ago. Today, we're going to compare it with all his interviews from 5 months ago and see how much his narrative has shifted, showing that the Live Tour is truly victorious.
He's always been controversial. In some quarters, he's a pariah, really.
When Alan Shipnuck says that in some quarters, Greg Norman is a pariah, he means in the quarters that he himself is calling Greg Norman a pariah. In this article from May 18th, 2022, Shipnuck says, but yes, it must be disquieting to imagine hitching your professional future to a pariah like Norman. And now that he has a chance to stir the pot, Shipnuck adds, a prominent tour agent recently confided that he is hearing Norman is on the outs with the Saudis, which would be another wild development in this saga. So now that on May 18th, remember that date is very important, Alan Shipnuck refers to Greg Norman as pariah. Now all the articles thereafter, if you Google Greg Norman and the word pariah, they're basically just reflecting off of what Alan Shipnuck said on May 18th. All the titles have Greg Norman and pariah in them, even pariah in quotes, as if Greg Norman is saying that he himself is a pariah and using that word. Not true. This article is from April, and it shows the echo chamber that these guys live in, where one guy says pariah and then they all use it. With the title of Being a Pariah in Golf Does Sting, Greg Norman actually says, look, I'll be honest with you. Yes, the criticisms have stung a bit, but I'm a big believer that you can't run through a brick wall without getting bloody. At no point does he refer to himself as feeling like a pariah. It's like this one time when my buddy was telling me Saturday Night Live was one of the top 100 shows or the number one show in its time slot, something like that. And when I Googled it, it turned out to be from one Vanity Fair article, and there had to be tons of asterisks in how they determined it was the number one show for this XYZ time slot on this day when the full moon is happening, all these qualifications. Because if you Google like top 100 shows, a list comes up and Saturday Night Live isn't in it. So it's the same thing here. Alan Shipnuck starts using the word pariah, and now all these articles afterwards start referring to Greg Norman as a pariah. Alan Shipnuck, you sneaky guy, you planted the pariah seed, and now later you're harvesting it. Also, SNL hasn't been funny in years.
And so it's fascinating how this has played out.
What's fascinating is how much of a pariah you now are on the Live Golf Tour. I'm sure that Greg Norman and Phil Mickelson don't want anything to do with you. But let's see how you try to weasel yourself out of this situation. This is Alan Shipnuck's tweet on June 9th. I'm going to live tweet Phil's round on the Fire Pit Stories handle. starting in 20 minutes. Haven't laid eyes on him since last year. I just landed in London this morning. I've been informed by tournament officials he doesn't wish to speak to me. We'll see how it goes post-round. Also on June 9th, Alan Shipnuck retweets, "Hello, friends. This is Alan Shipnuck, live from Live. I'm going to cruise around with Phil and Dustin. I hope you will tag along. This is straight up stalker."
It's changed a little bit, the addition of the most recently of Charles Howell and Henrik Stenson. That's actually important for Live because everyone likes those guys. They're like nice people. Right. It's fascinating to watch how this all plays out.
It certainly is fascinating.
There's pearl clutching over sports gambling.
The UAE is likely entering sports gambling, but yet not a peep. No criticism, no acknowledgement.
It's just a more boring product. So
the minute that Alan Shipnuck says that the PGA Tour is just putting out a more boring product, he's jumping ship. This is the moment where I realized the PGA Tour had lost.
And then you have the players, their relationship with the press has evolved where they all want to monetize their content.
Now Alan Shipnuck is parroting one of Phil Mickelson's main reasons for wanting to start another league. In this article that says what Phil gets wrong about the PGA Tour's media rights, in which Phil actually gets it right, Phil Mickelson states, "But the players don't have access to their own media. If the tour wanted to end any threat from Saudi or anywhere else, they could just hand back the media rights to the players. But they would rather throw $25 million here and $40 million there than give back the roughly $20 billion in digital assets."
The Saudi money was very intoxicating for him, and but Phil's a complex guy, and there was another element to this is he wanted to be right. He's very strident and self-righteous, and he sees himself as this maverick and this agent of change.
Alan Shipnuck, the biographer who speaks in run-on sentences, the CNN host, couldn't get a word in. When Alan Shipnuck gets on a roll, he's got to get the whole narrative out.
And he wanted to reshape the entire sport and his image. I think in the end, Norman probably would have done this for free because it's a chance to be right. It's a chance to stick it to the tour. It's a chance to reshape the whole sport in his own image. And
that is correct. In June, Alan Shipnuck says about Phil Mickelson that the Live Golf Tour is a chance to reshape the entire sport in his own image. In July, he says about Norman, it's a chance to reshape the sport in his own image, but this time he means Greg Norman's image. The guy really has a few lines that he just uses over and over again.
And so no one gets in bed with the Saudis without the money, for sure. But I think Phil also saw this as an opportunity to shake things up and to really be a transformative figure in the sport. And that was very appealing to him as well.
The CNN host is wondering, did Alan Shipnuck just get all the narratives out in one long run-on sentence? And he's also worried that he has to ask him another question, and then he won't be able to say anything for another 5 minutes.
And they saw how Tiger signed this deal and Rory McIlroy signed this deal, and so they become more remote figures. They're not. It's harder if as reporters, if we can't tell their story and get people to care, that's a problem.
This coming from the reporter that threw Phil under the bus so that he was uncomfortable enough that he didn't defend his PGA championship title. And now he wants people to forget that and think, oh, these golfers are remote. They're remote because of reporters like you, Alan.
There's a lot of things that have come together here that they did, as you say, make the tour vulnerable. And the complicating factor, of course, is the Saudi money, because that causes a lot of emotion and a lot of cognitive dissonance for people. And so that's why we're having all these conversations. But from a pure competition standpoint, you're absolutely right. The tour needed competition, and now it's arrived in spades.
Alan Shipnuck playing both sides of the fence. Less than 2 weeks earlier, he said that Live Golf is about many things: disruption, sports washing, and vengeance. He didn't say that the PGA Tour needed the competition.
And you guys had your situation where he's looking sternly behind you, and not knowing Greg and knowing you what I know, I laughed at it. I thought, oh, brother, this is going to be another book.
If you want to see an entire video on this event, just check this video out.
He feels like the guy that would have done this. And so, not that I'm sympathetic, Alan, but like, I get it. I get Norman in this tour. Does that make sense?
Totally. And
With that totally, Alan Shipnuck begins his hard pivot towards the Live Golf Tour and trying to get back in the good graces of Greg Norman.
yeah, I think what you said is very perceptive. I mean, he's an iconoclast,
Before, he was a pariah.
and that's always been his role in the game. And Norman, he's taken a lot of shrapnel through the years, but he's always, like Phil has done more recently. You know, Greg back in the 90s was fighting for a lot of these same battles. You know, the players should have a bigger slice of the pie, that they should have control of their media rights, that they should have control of their branding.
Right now, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan is ripping up his Christmas card for Alan Shipnuck. No more invites.
I mean, Norman was very much ahead of his time, as you said, and so he's kind of the right man at the right time. He's a polarizing figure. He loves the media. He loves the limelight.
Again, this is coming from the guy, Alan Shipnuck, who was just on CNN after the Live Golf event in London, saying that Greg Norman threw him out of the tournament and then pretended he didn't know that he had thrown him out because there's a photo of Greg Norman in the background. He did one of these gotcha moments on Greg Norman, which I'm sure went unappreciated. Alan Shipnuck, even more weaselly, tried to tie in the fact that he got thrown out with Saudi Arabia's lack of freedom of the press.
Overall, you have to say it's impressive what he's built in a very short period of time. And it's interesting because the PGA Tour commissioner is always a bureaucrat, and the players always look at them as an opponent and as almost like the school principal, you know, who's waiting to scold you. But Norman's an equal, and he's a peer, and he's, in a lot of ways, I mean, none of these guys are going to be number one in the world for 330 weeks like Greg Norman was, right? Like, he's done things they could only dream about as a player. So
Right.
they really look at him differently, as he's a protector, and he's a patriarch, and it's just a different energy between the players and Norman versus what the players had with the PGA Tour commissioner. And he's maximized and exploited that, and he's done a great job bringing these guys into the fold, feeling like they're part of something bigger, that they're playing for something that matters to them, which is obviously money, but also being able to do things their way, and to have a voice and to have control of their destiny, which most of them felt like they didn't have on the PGA Tour.
I think we all now, as a golf YouTube community, realize that the PGA Tour is pretty much done. Rats always leave a sinking ship, and boy, is Alan Shipnuck scurrying, running for the little rope thing that connects the boat to the pier. And the pier now is the Live Golf Tour. I also want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who subscribed. It's really helped with the subscriber level. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button, share it with your buddies, and throw a like on there. Comments are also appreciated.